Oh, he's here only. No problem.
Yes, recording has started.
Okay, Phila,
Right.
call the first.
Can I begin?
Yes, please.
All right. So now I give the time to the first presenter, Agniva Banerjee. Please take your time. You have 12 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes.
Yes, you're
You're fine.
Okay. I shall share my screen so that you can see my PowerPoint presentation. One second. Yeah, is it visible?
Not yet.
no, not yet.
Okay. Yeah. I hope this is.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Sorry. So I'm not being able to change the slides. So just give me a minute.
Okay, take your own time. You don't go for the slideshow side mein, jitna you click each and every time.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think now it's visible. So
Yes.
yeah. So the title
Yes.
of my paper is Rewriting the Mythic Woman in Contemporary Indian Graphic Novels in English, Feminist Standpoint, Narrative Agency, and the Afterlives of Myth. So to say that folklore matters is to recognize that myth, as one of its richest and most enduring expressions, is never a closed book. It circulates, transforms, and acquires new resonances each time it is retold or performed. Myth is not merely a relic of the past, but a living discourse that continually returns to shape cultural memory, traditions, and political life. In contemporary India, where ancient epics are frequently mobilized to reinforce dominant and often patriarchal and chauvinistic narratives, the act of retelling assumes the force of an intervention, a counter ritual through which other voices may emerge. Feminist retellings of myth are particularly significant in this regard, for they not only revisit the silences imposed upon women, but also reanimate the textures of folklore. So, to approach myth through feminist retellings is to recognize that women's perspectives are not simply marginal add-ons to an established canon, but vantage points from which the canon itself may be re-seen, reheard, and re-embodied. Feminist standpoint theorists such as Sandra Harding and Chandra Talpade Mohanty have argued that knowledge is never neutral. It emerges from particular locations and lived experiences, and those historically silenced, the colonized, the subaltern, and the gendered other, poses what Mohanty calls privileged knowledges that challenge dominant truth claims. When mythic women such as Sita, Katyayani, Gayatri, and Maitreyi are given voice through retelling, they do not simply inhabit old roles differently. They return as epistemic agents, offering perspectives shaped by suffering, resilience, and embodied wisdom. Sorry, I cannot change this. Okay, yeah. So Amruta Patil's Aranyak, Book of the Forest, stages its intervention in the forest, a threshold space that is both literal and symbolic, an arena of ritual practice and a metaphor for states of becoming. Three women, Katyayani, Maitreyi, and Gayatri, They are the three wives of the Rishi Yagnavalkya. So Katyayani, the forest-born, embodies a sensorial intelligence. Her education is not through the renunciation of the body, but through its attunement to hunger, desire, and exhaustion. Katyayani names herself at the outset as the Lurge, and the sentence that follows becomes the key that unlocks both plot and method. Since the warp of her story has always been hunger, and from that first page, the book teaches its reader to hear appetite as an epistemic register, where the smoke of the kitchen hearth and the breath of a mantra belong to the same economy of tending and care. Maitri, figured as the fig, carries forward the ancient question from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad about wealth and immortality. Yet in this narrative, she also recognizes that metaphysical aspiration depends upon the infrastructures of sustenance, and that the light within requires the smoky wood fire without, a recognition that is stated with crystalline clarity when she remarks that without the large hearth, no inner fires could be lit. The figure who completes this triad of Rishikas is Gayatri, called the Weaver, and named in the book as Guide 3. She brings an intelligence of pattern and relation that is at once tactile and reflective. Since the loom teaches that a fabric holds because threads consent to be held together at measured intervals, and that a story holds for the same reason, and her watchfulness over knots, borders, and repeats turns the forest into a pedagogy of composition, where inference looks like weft passing through warp, and where a theory of form grows out of craft rather than being imposed upon it. Yeah, these are the three women we are talking about. The book's visual grammar makes this argument legible without recourse to commentary, since panels written like reference river resemble lines of script and smoke curls into letters. And the forest refuses the role of a mere backdrop and advances as an actor with tempos of its own. I'll just skip a little bit. If Aranyak, Book of the Forest, unsettles the forest as a site of ritual authority, Sita's Ramayana shifts the stage altogether. Here the myth is not told from the vantage point of kings, sages, or warriors, but through the voice and gaze of a woman, whose story has too often been narrated only in fragments. Samhita Arni's text, interwoven with Maina Chitrakar's Patachitra art, retrieves Sita from the margins of Valmiki's canon and recenters her as both narrator and witness. The choice of the medium itself is significant. The Pattachitra form, Patta means cloth and Chitra means picture. It is a performative tradition from Odisha and Bengal. It carries within it an oral cadence. It was designed to be sung, narrated, scolded through in the presence of an audience. To transpose the Ramayana into this form is to re-invoke its folkloric plurality. The many Ramayanas that A.K. Ramanujan argued were central to its history. The scroll painting is not illustrative in any secondary sense, but of the narrative. It interrupts, reframes, and reinflates the text so that Sita's words appear inseparable from the colors and shapes through which they are voiced. What Sita narrates is not the heroism of battle, but the slow corrosion of dignity under suspicion. When she recalls her abduction, the pain is not confined to the violence of Ravana's trickery, but extends to the suspicion she encounters upon her return. The epic fought ostensibly for her honor collapses into irony when she realizes that the war was not for her, but for Ram's reputation. The battle was waged not to rescue me, but to redeem his honor. Here, war is stripped bare of its sanctified sin and revealed as a theater of male pride. Feminist standpoint theory helps us see why this reorientation matters. By narrating from the standpoint of the woman most silenced in the epic tradition, Sita's Ramayana destabilizes the view from nowhere that androcentric myths represent, and instead insists on a view from the lived experience of injustice. The narrative strategy of recounting the war through messengers such as Trijatha, the Rakshasi and niece of Ravan, who comfort Sita, or the voices that report the battle's progress and further displaces the valorization of male heroics. The climactic moment of trial, first the Agniva, later the exile into the forest after the Prajas of Ayodhya questions her chastity, are reframed as acts of patriarchal betrayal. When Sita laments, "Had he ever known me, the question cuts through centuries of devotional pity, reducing Ram's righteousness to cruelty. And when she finally chooses to return to her mother, the earth, refusing Rama's entreaties, her act is no longer one of tragic surrender, but of sovereign agency. Unlike in Valmiki Ramayana, where her descent is a reduced, she will not be an Abala Nari, she chooses her own closure. The folklore idiom of Pattachitra underscores this choice. The scroll ends not with a coronation, but with a withdrawal, a visual unbinding of the patriarchal narrative. Equally important is how the work reframes collateral damages of war. Sita reflects war in some ways is merciful to men. It makes them heroes if they are victors. If they are vanquished, they do not live their wife. But if you are a woman, you must live through defeat. This insight, articulated through Sita's voice, crystallizes what folklore and feminist theory together can reveal. The asymmetry of suffering, the fact that women are conscripted into the aftermath of war as mourners, caretakers, and survivors. Such a perspective is absent in canonical Ramayanas, but becomes visible once myth is reframed through subaltern aesthetics and oral traditions. In our contemporary times, when feminist movements and women's activism are steadily reshaping public discourse in India, such a revoicing of canonical figures becomes all the more urgent. That these retellings emerge in the form of graphic narratives is not incidental. The fusion of verbal and visual registers invites new communities of readers and challenges the monopoly of text-bound voices, and through the vibrant visual idiom of Pattachitra, the work demonstrates how folklore and feminist storytelling can converge to unsettle long-entrenched patriarchal narratives. Both as an aesthetic experiment and as a cultural intervention, Sita's Ramayana reminds us that myth is never fixed, and in its retelling, women continue to claim the authority of speech in spaces where they were once only spoken for. Placed side by side, Aranyak, Book of the Forest, and Sita's Ramayana make visible how feminist retellings of myth reposition women not as passive emblems of virtue or transgression, but as situated knowers who articulate memory, desire, and descent. If Patil's forest is an imaginary visual textual Sita stages resistance within a folk idiom that refuses the grandeur of royal chronicles. Read through feminist standpoint theory, these women characters demonstrate what Harding calls strong objectivity. They speak from the margins of patriarchal epics and thereby expose the partiality of the so-called universal. Similarly, the performative idioms, the Pattachitra scrolls, the oral cadences, the forest ritual songs echo what Shekhnar describes as restored behavior, where performance reactivates memory for new contexts. So to conclude, if the retelling of myth has always been an act of survival for marginalized communities, then in our times, it has also become an act of defiance. Aranyak, Book of the Forest, and Sita's Ramayana are not valuable merely because they revise canonical stories, but because they remind us that women's perspectives are central to how cultural memory is made and remade. By placing figures like Katyayani, Maitreyi, and Sita at the center of narrative, these works insist that myth is not about timeless exemplars, but about lived vulnerability, from not about voices, but the creation of new experimental and political. In a period when the cultural archive is repeatedly harnessed for very aggressive patriarchal and chauvinistic ends, these feminist counter-narratives reorient our attention to other ways of remembering, to plural myths, to fragile inheritances, to the unfinished task of giving language and form to lives once silenced. They remind us that folklore matters because it makes room for futures that official history resists imagining. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Agniva, for wrapping up your presentation in time. We will take questions and any queries or thoughts that you, the listeners, might like to share in the message chat icon below. Now we will give the time to Varsha Jagadeesh, a research scholar from Christ University. Yes, please take your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll now share my screen.
Yeah, it's okay, Varsha.
One second.
No date to come. Yeah.
It's fine now.
And now it came.
Okay. My name is Varsha Jagadeesh. I'm a research scholar from Christ University, Bangalore. So, as my paper titled, Tholpavakoothu as a medium of community identity and social cohesion in Kerala.
Varsha, open your face also. Let people see. Is it impossible for you? Oh,
Just
typical.
yeah, I'm unable
Okay,
to see.
then it is. Leave it. Then leave
I
it.
hope it is visible.
That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So changing functions of folklore in Kerala. The paper is primarily about the art form Tholpavakoothu, which is a form of shadow puppetry. And it is one of the ancient ritualistic art forms which is performed in the Bhadrakali temples in the various parts of Kerala. So shadow puppetry is present in various southern states of India in different forms, and Tholpavakoothu is the Kerala form of shadow puppetry. As the name indicates, this art form is performed in shadow with dolls, which is pava, that is made out of thol, that is leather. And the stories that are primarily narrated through this performance are taken from the epic Ramayana by Kambar, who was a Tamil poet. And this art form is performed by certain communities, predominantly Pulavar, who preserve this as a family tradition. The person who has received extensive training in puppetry and puppet making, along with an immense knowledge in the epics and Tamil language, is considered, they are given with the title of Pulavar. More than being an entertainment form, Tholpavakoothu is an integral part of Kerala's rich cultural heritage, connecting the facets of history, mythology, craftsmanship, and communal identity. As a religious art form, Tholpavakoothu is predominantly performed in the Bhadrakali temples of Kerala as part of the temple festival. And this art form is performed in specially built stages outside the temple premises, which is called Koothu Madam. The puppets will be kept behind a white screen with light and shadow adjusted behind the screen, and the puppets will be manipulated with attached strings by the performers. So this is how the art form looks like. And when we are analyzing the existing literature, so these are some of the articles that are existing specifically about this art form, and the themes explored are mainly the historical ritualistic background of this art form, its aesthetic or the history or the religious aspects such as puppet making techniques, mythological narratives, and ritual performance practices. And there is a limited scholarly focus on the art form's contemporary social functions, especially its evolving role in shaping community identity, fostering social cohesion, and addressing modern challenges in Kerala's rural and semi-urban contexts. So addressing this gap is crucial to understanding the ongoing relevance and adaptive potential of this art form, which is not merely a static ritual, but as a dynamic medium of community building and identity formation in Kerala today. So these are the research questions and research objectives. What is the role of Tholpavakoothu in shaping community identity and social cohesion in Kerala today? What roles do collective participation and intergenerational transmission play in sustaining Tholpavakoothu as a living tradition? And what are the ways in which the tradition adapts to contemporary social and cultural challenges? Research objectives are to processes of collective participation and intergenerational learning within Tholpavakoothu practice, and to assess the strategies and innovations employed to sustain and adapt this tradition in modern contexts. So the methodology is mainly grounded in the qualitative study of live and documented performances, the relevant texts and scripts of the performance, archival materials, and the scholarly articles that provide insights into the cultural, social, and ritual aspects of Tholpavakoothu. So the frameworks that are primarily used is the social functionalism of Lori Honko and Bronislaw Malinowski. So according to them, the idea of social functionalism, it actually states that folklore is embedded in broader environments as a dynamic medium. It is something that is interwoven with the social, cultural, and spiritual backdrop, and it adapts to the atmosphere and norms of the community. Lori Hongo, according to him, he has given importance or focus on the performance-centered approaches of folklore rather than just limiting to the textual and historic geographic methods of it. And also, he has given significant contribution and focus on the fieldwork aspect of folklore studies. So the social functionalism will be the framework that is used for the study. So coming to the main analysis, Tholpavakoothu is not just an art form, but it is deeply rooted in the ritual and community life. It reflects the region's collective identity. The custodianship of Tholpavakoothu has historically belonged to the Pulavar families, who are not only skilled puppeteers, but also respected scholars responsible for preserving the textual, ritual, and performative dimensions of this tradition. However, its successful performance is enabled by the involvement of other communities as well, particularly the Nayars and the Vellala Chetty, who contribute to preparing the stage, offering logistical support, and participating as devoted audiences. Along with them, there are musicians with helpers and other community members who assist and prepare for the ritual. And they are reinforcing a shared sense of cultural belonging. And the continuity of this art form is sustained through the apprenticeship within family troops. The family lineages of Pulavar and their trainees uphold the continuity of the tradition, passing down skills and responsibilities which binds individuals and families to the broader regions of religious community. And in this way, Tholpavakoothu functions as more than a ritual entertainment. It becomes an emblem of local identity, binding together castes, communities, and temple groups in a network of shared values, collective memory, and spiritual devotion. And this art form is performed mainly from the months of January to May, coinciding with the annual festivals of Bhadragali temples in the districts of Kerala. The whole village looks forward to these events as they mark a special period of celebration and anticipation. And on performance nights, villagers will gather at the special theatre space, which is called Koothu Madam, which is built near the temple. And the whole setting creates a festive atmosphere. The ritual runs late into night, sometimes for 21 consecutive nights, drawing community members together for shared experience, conversation, and celebration. And the performance is considered as an offering to the goddess Bhadrakali based on a legend in which she is appeased by witnessing the Ramayana enacted in shadow form. So the shared faith and devotion unite participants in a common spiritual purpose. And this is how the Koothu Madam looks like. So this Koothu Madam is not just a performance space, but a place for the entire village to gather, socialize, and build bonds. The act of coming together under one roof to witness stories, irrespective of caste or economic status, it actually fosters strong communal ties. And the anticipation for these nighttime gatherings, discussions about the epics and the art, and collective participation in preparing and witnessing the rituals all create powerful shared memories and generational narratives. And even as modern audience and youth participate, it helps renew interest and ensures the survival of this unique cultural identity, reinforcing cohesion in the face of change. In order to conclude, Tholpavakoothu, despite being an ancient traditional art form, it still remains as a vibrant and enduring tradition, and it has the potential to serve as a profound medium of community identity and social unity in Kerala. It fosters intergenerational transmission of cultural values and strengthens communal bonds across diverse groups. And the revival initiatives by the trained communities and the preservation safeguard the art form from decline, ensuring the continuity of a living cultural heritage, which is essential in maintaining Kerala's social fabric and collective memory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Varsha, Jagadeesh. Please enter your thoughts and insights in the chat box. Meanwhile, we will move on to the next presenter, Jyotis Babu PP, a research scholar from Christ University. Yes, please take your time.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
This is my screen.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm presenting my research titled Eating with Ancestors, Ritual Consumption and Ancestral Presence in the Tia Community. So, this study focuses on ritual consumption and ancestral presence in the Tia community of Hyderabad, Kerala. My aim is to show how food, sacrifice, and memory come together in this ritual and how it challenges mainstream notions of purity and truth. Also, the research also goes to the lines of identity, caste, gender. So, in Hindu traditions, food is never just a nutrition. It is deeply tied to ideas of morality, purity. As Apagure has written, food is the fundamental link between humans and God. Rituals involving food and sacrifice are also about identity, memory. In Kerala, one such ritual is Vadakin Bhagan, also called Vadakin Mass. This is an ancestral ritual practiced during Kannur, particularly by the Tia community. Unlike mainstream Puritan rituals, this one involves sacrificial offerings of food, consumption of liquor, and promise, which are consumed at the side. This makes the ritual stand out counter-narrative to purity. Then, coming to my objectives and research tab. So now what makes this ritual important to study? Most academic work in Kerala focusing on around the lines of Karkidava Vaga, which is another practice, Puritan ritual of ancestral worship. But there is very little research on this non-Puritan rituals, especially those involving food and sacrifice. So the Tia community is one of the most dominant communities in Hyderabad, but the ritual practices have not been studied in that very niche research. My research fills this gap by documenting Vadakin Bhagan and life to the left of food and so, talking about my objectives, this research had four main objectives. First, to trace.
Slide is not moving. Hello?
Um,
Your slide is not moving. Are you using two gadgets?
No, sir.
It's quite a lot of howling is there. Echoing is there.
The
Your
sound is
slide
also
not
not
moving.
proper.
Yeah.
Sound
Okay,
is
sir.
also not clear.
Yeah, now it's okay. Use
Okay,
that.
maybe I'll have to keep my mic a bit closer to my mouth.
Yeah, that is best.
Uh,
Yeah. No, it's clear and it just let the slide also move. Okay. Sorry for the intervention.
No, sir. Is the slide moving now? No, right?
No.
Just a minute. I'll just try to share once more.
Yeah,
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
no issues.
Actually, do not put it in slide share mode. You can click on the slides according to your presentation.
Okay.
Okay. Now when you click, it is okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry for the inconvenience. So talking about the objectives, this research
Please keep your mic closer to your
Mic,
mouth,
yeah.
otherwise
Yeah.
we cannot.
Sorry. So this research have four main objectives. First, to trace the history and evolution of the ritual. Second is to explore the symbolism of sacrificial offerings to goddess Kali and the ancestors. And third, to understand the role of abstinence, purity, and food taboo in the ritual. And finally, to analyze how this ritual resists or counters notions of purity and worship. And coming to my research questions, so based on these objectives, I have the first question. What I have stated is how has the ritual of Vadakinimagam evolved historically, and what external factors shaped it? And the second question is what is its cultural and symbolic significance within the community? And third is how does food play an important role in the ritual, and how does it challenge dominant notions of purity and worship? So, coming to my methodology, I use an exploratory ethnographic approach. Fieldwork was conducted in the village of Talamunda in Kannur, and I relied on participant observation, in-depth interviews with elders, mainly between the age of 70 and 85, and the collection of oral narratives. I also documented the ritual with photographs and notes. So, why ethnographic research? Because the ritual is an obscure ritual practice in certain parts of Kannur, Kerala, and minimal number of literature is available. As the ritual remains unexplored, the required data is collected directly from the primary sources. And primary data is essential as the analysis tells people multiple frameworks. So these are the frameworks that I've used, certain ideas, ideas of the research. Then these are again explaining those ideas. So talking about the model of analysis, I've used thematic analysis, narrative, and critical discourse analysis, so analyzing the recurring practices of the ritual, grouping similar responses on the basis of theoretical frameworks such as gender, history, and identity. Narrative analysis tries to deduce meanings from their experience and storytelling, and CAD is to uncover power relations over caste, class, and gender present in the conversation. So, coming to my findings, the ritual itself has three main stages. The first is the Ganapati Puja, second the Kali Puja, where a rooster is sacrificed. The blood is offered to Kali while the rooster is later cooked for Prasad. And third, offerings are made to the ancestors called Vanara. So the sacrificial meat is cooked with rice to prepare Kurvatara, which is then consumed by family members. Liquor and toddy are also offered and shared. Other foods like chono pulka, a rice-based dish, and roasted grains are also part of the ritual. And so here, food is not only symbolic, it is actively consumed as a way of remembering ancestors and pleasing the goddess. And so first, the consumption function as act of appeasement, but also as communal bonding. Sharing the sacrificed food creates both spiritual and social connection. Second, the ritual is highly gendered. Men usually perform the sacrifice and the ancestor offerings, while women prepare the associated food. So coming to the third point, these are some pictures that I collected during the field work. So on the right hand side, you can see the rooster and the sacrifice of the rooster. It is prepared as the prasad and it is served to ancestors. So coming to my third point, caste plays an important role. The ritual is largely practiced by the Thiya and the other non-Brahminical communities, making it as a space of resistance to Brahminical dominance and Puritan notion. So finally, memory and continuity sustain the ritual. Elders pass on the meanings and practices through storytelling and lived participation, ensuring that the ritual continues across generations. So coming to my conclusion. In conclusion, the ritual shows us how food, ritual, caste, and identity intersect in Kerala's cultural life. By sacralizing meat and liquor, the ritual challenges the Puritan notions of the mainstream. At the same time, it creates a sense of belonging and identity for the community. Most importantly, it reminds us that food is not just about sustenance, it is a medium for ancestral presence, community identity, and spiritual fulfillment. This study contributes to larger discussions in food anthropology, research studies, and the politics of purity and pollution. So, uh, my limitation is that written documents were not much available, and certain religious spaces were not accessible also. And some people were also unwilling to share certain information regarding the ritual. So, the research on the ritual can be extended to other castes and comparative studies to identify similar ritual practices and patterns around Kerala and other states to measure the perceptions towards Tamasic mode of food worship and consumption. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Um, yes. Okay. Thank you, Jagdeesh Babu, for your presentation. Shall now give the time to, I now give the time to Rubaya Nasreen, PhD scholar from the Department of English, Jadavpur University. Yes, please take your time.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will present my paper titled Screens of Mourning, Songs of Resistance, Folklore in Conflict Zones in Conflict Shadow. This work explores how where documentaries transform lived experiences into living folklore that resists state domination, with a particular focus on five broken cameras, the wanted 18, for Sama, exiled, and midnight travelers. Folklore has traditionally been sung, spoken, and remembered within communities, but in the 21st century, folklore has also become cinematic. These documentaries, recorded on mobile phones, clay animations, and digital archives, carry the same essence of oral tradition, resisted survival, and memory. My objectives are threefold: to examine how weird documentaries become contemporary folklore, to analyze them as counter narratives in the age of fifth generation warfare, where media silence and fake news distort truths, to focus on women, children, animals, and digital immigrants whose testimonies challenges both state archives and Islamophobic erasure. As one Syrian mother in Forsama confesses, as a mother, I wanted to protect you. As a filmmaker, I needed to show the world. This paradox lies at the heart of cinematic folklore. This study asks what happens when conflict testimonies, songs, lullabies, animal fables, and mobile footage are transformed into documentary cinema. The objectives are threefold: to examine where documentaries as visual folklore, where everyday voices become weapons for remembrance, to connect these films with fifth generation warfare, where battles are fought not with tanks but with propaganda, silence, and misinformation, to highlight gendered and marginalized testimonies, especially immigrant women, children, and Indian Muslims whose voices are systematically erased. These films are not simply records, they are counter narratives standing against official archives and international silence. My methodology is comparative and interdisciplinary. I combine folklore theory with decolonial frameworks, feminist testimony studies with media warfare analysis. I examine how everyday voices, a farmer's diary, a cow's voice in animation, a child's lullaby in exile become acts of resistance when captured through visual media. Five Broken Cameras, directed by Iman Barnard and co-directed by Israel filmmaker Guy Davidi, this documentary offers perhaps the most intimate Palestinian testimony. Set in Palestinian village of Bilin, Five Broken Cameras is both personal diary and political testimony. Imad Bernard brought his first camera to film his newborn son, Jibril. He records Jibril's childhood alongside the destruction of olive groves, homes, and lives. Bernard says, I filmed to protect my family. I filmed to protect Jibril, but every camera is destroyed by bullets, by soldiers, until five broken cameras tell the story of both fatherhood and resistance. The child's first steps, his innocent laughter, and his slow awakening to violence are all captured. The camera becomes not just a recorder, but almost a living witness. As the film progresses, the camera documents the Israeli military bulldozers uprooting olive trees, the expansion of settlements, and the everyday resistance of Bilin villagers. Across five broken cameras shattered by bullets, smashed by soldiers, folklore is reborn. The olive tree becomes a folkloric symbol of rootedness, and the child's growing body becomes a testimony of survival. International media often overlook this daily violence, but Five Broken Camera forces it onto the global screen, even earning an Oscar nomination. Within the 5GW framework, the film resists the terrorist label imposed on Palestinians by offering a counter archive of village life and peaceful protest. The Wanted 18. If Five Broken Camera is intimate tragedy, The Wanted 18 is satirical folklore. Directed by Amir Someli and Paul Cohen, this documentary blends animation, clay puppets, archival footage, and interviews. The film tells the absurd but powerful story of 18 cows smuggled into Beit Shahor during the First Intifada. Israel declared the cows a threat to national security. Why? Because they symbolize economic independence. Palestinians producing their own milk. The clay puppet cows speak, protest, and joke. Through them, folklore reemerges. The talking animal, a motif from global fables, becomes a metaphor of resistance. Through interviews, drawings, and stop motion clay animation, the cows themselves speak. One clay cow humorously declares, they called us dangerous cow, because our milk was freedom. Here animals become storytellers, part of oral tradition. Mothers carried milk in buckets across houses as if smuggling resistance. The villagers laughed, sang, and remembered the cows in folklore. It demonstrates how even non-human violences become symbols in cognitive battles of 5G warfare. This playful style disguises a tragic reality. The occupation criminalizes even self-sufficiency. The film demonstrates how humor, folklore, and absurdity destabilize authoritarian propaganda. Within 5GW logic, the film punctures Israel's security narrative, showing how even animals become political actors. For Sama, directed by Wad al-Khatib and Edward Watts, For Sama is both a word diary and a mother's letter to her child. For Sama is a love letter from mother to her daughter, born in Aleppo during the Syrian uprising. Wad captures both her private motherhood and public resistance. She whispers to her baby, Sama, I gave birth to you in a war zone. Was it fair to bring you into this life? Her regret reflects the impossible choices of women in conflict. The film documents hospitals bombed, children screaming not just as the explosions but as the silence afterward. A doctor observes the children scream not from the bombs but from the silence that follows. Selected for an Oscar and Cannes Film Festival, the film turns hospital walls, lullabies, and regrets into cinematic folklore. In 5GW terms, it explores truths that regime tried to bury beneath propaganda. Filmed during the Syrian civil war and the aftermath of the Arab Spring, Wad documents a life in besieged Aleppo. War's testimony as a mother transformed war testimony into gendered folklore, lullabies turned into laments. Exiled, the Rohingya. This Al Jazeera documentary, directed by Shafiur Rahman, centers on the Rohingya crisis. Shafiur Rahman's Exile brings us to the world's largest refugee camps, Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh. Here the Rohingya recall burning villages, mass rapes, and ethnic cleansing. One survivor says, "They took our men, they raped our women, but they could not silence our prayers." Women carry both trauma and tradition, singing exile songs that preserve memory. Children play in mud, but their games mimic fire and flight. They burned our villages, but they could not burn our songs, a Rohingya singer says. This documentary highlights gendered suffering, Islamophobic violence, and the dehumanization of refugees. Yet it also shows folklore as survival, songs becoming homeland when land is lost. Children play in muddy alleys, women carry water, yet behind these mundane images lie stories of mass killing and systematic rape. This documentary shows how the Myanmar state practices ethnic cleansing while the international community turns away. For 5GW, the Rohingya crisis is buried under silence, treated as internal issue. This documentary breaks that silence, exposing what mainstream global media suppresses. Midnight Travelers. Directed by Hassan Fazili, this film is unique. It is shot entirely on smartphones by Fazili and his family as they flee Afghanistan after a Taliban bounty is placed on his head. Entirely shot on smartphone, Midnight Traveler follows Afghan filmmaker Hassan, his wife, and daughter, and his two daughters as they flee Taliban threats. The family's exile across borders becomes a cinematic diary of displacement. At a European border, Fazili's daughter asks, "Baby, Baba, why don't they want us?" A child's question that indicates global indifference. The wife weeps silently. As Fazil admits, "My wife hides her tears at night so the girls don't see her breaking." He concludes, "The phone becomes our only passport." In 5GW warfare, where right-wing media fuels Islamophobia, their smartphone cinema becomes survival archive, a family's proof of existence. The family is not welcomed as refugees, but rejected as Muslims, evidence of Islamophobia in Europe. Right-wing media frames them as threats, illustrating how 5GW works by manipulating fear of migration. Here, the folklore element lies in the journey itself, a migrate odyssey retold through the family's own lens, not through Western cameras. While these films cover Palestine, Syria, Myanmar, and Afghanistan, their echoes are heard in India. Indian Muslims face lynching, displacement, and systematic erasure. Like the Rohingya, they are accused of being outsiders in their own land. One activist notes, "To be Muslim in India today is to live in exile at home." Here again, women and children carry the heaviest burdens, their songs and prayers becoming counter archives to a state sanctioned silence. Indian Muslims, particularly after policies of exclusion and lynching, face systematic erasure. Women in particular become double victims of patriarchy and communal targeting. The challenge is the same: to reclaim visibility and survival through narrative, testimony, and visible folklore. In conclusion, these 5 documentaries demonstrates that cinema can be folklore, a space where stories, song, and symbols live against erasure. Key findings: 5GW warfare operates through propaganda and silence, but films counter these with testimony. Folklore motifs: tree animals, lullabies become political weapons. Most of these films still depend on global recognition of Oscars festivals for legitimacy. Voices that never reach the screen remain unheard. We must expand the study of cinematic folklore to include undocumented archives, social media testimonies, and local storytelling that never make it into film festivals. Ultimately, these films remind us that in where the camera is both archive and women in the age of 5GW. When truth itself is under siege, folklore reborn on screen ensures that the marginalized reclaim not only memory but also the right to resist and to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Rubaya. I saw that you presented a different paper from the one that you submitted. But anyway,
I submitted the same paper that I presented.
Oh,
No,
is the title
actually,
the same?
your
Folklore of
title is
Resistance in
different
Exile?
from the one you have put in the, I mean,
Mm,
spreadsheet
title
now. Your abstract is slightly changed, as you have already told me. So
title
accordingly,
is same.
our schedule has already been prepared when you have shared me the abstract. So your title seems different from the one you have.
Yeah, okay. Title might be different, but the primary text and other themes are same.
No, that's
All
not
right.
any problem.
No problem.
That's not any
No
problem.
problem. Yes. I request the listeners to kindly submit your insights and understanding in the if there are any and suggestions from the presenters' papers in the chat box. We shall now move on to the next presenter, Ritanvita Dasgupta, PG student from St. Xavier's University.
Good afternoon, esteemed chairs and fellow presenters. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are both.
I am Ritanvita Dasgupta, and my topic is Echoes from the Margins, Subaltern Women, Caste and Eco-Spiritual Resistance in Indian Folk Traditions. And with that, I begin to share my screen. Is my presentation visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Now, on a self-timer of 3, 2, 1. So in this study, we are going to investigate Indian folk literatures and especially how ritual performance, goddess myths, and oral narratives.
Sorry, Rita. Yes, yeah, okay. Visible now. Please continue.
Yes. So we're going to explore how ritual performance, goddess myths, and oral narratives are going to create a functional counter archive and narrative where caste, oppressed, and eco-spiritually aware women will recover their voice. And Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak's concept of epistemic violence that refers to the silencing and marginalization of non-Western knowledge systems and perspectives with dominant Western narratives, and how Western knowledge and Western research upon Indian cultures or the Eastern knowledge is often privileged, and the voices of the indigenous or local communities are not really recorded in official documentations. So this is a gap that my research is going to identify. And indigenous knowledge, which comes mostly in forms of rituals, oral narratives, and traditions passed down through generations, how is it dismissed and it is considered as inadequate, and it is conveniently erasing and distorting the voices and experiences of marginalized groups, and the systemic and structural inability of the subaltern to speak in predominant discourses. So primary case studies I have included Mahashada Devi's reimagining of female and tribal narratives, A.K. Ramanujan's translations, and textual references from how oral motifs are used to articulate the subaltern registers. And it foregrounds the historical invisibility of Black women, and but also it mostly is going to focus on Indian folklore from West Bengal, Orissa, and some parts of Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu. And I am going to employ field work and a lot of folk texts as my primary text, and this is just my proposal for now. And Indian folk traditions, goddess myths, oral narratives, just like we have, for example, Santhali dance, or even goddesses like Bono Bibi from the Sundarbans, they have perpetually served as vital areas for subaltern women's expression of their resistance, and they are enraged, they're angry about how they're marginalized, but their anxieties are never really expressed from their own narratives, but by mostly critics who write about them and who are insistent in giving them a voice, which kind of makes it tend to be pandering or to privilege mostly like those texts that are in the Sanskritic hierarchy, or the mainstream people, not the folk like who inhabit the cities and the caste who are positioned in a hierarchical position of caste as well in this case. And Brahmanistic and Sanskrit narratives are privileged. This is what I'm talking about. But this study is going to contend that folk literature constitutes a feminist subordinate narratives challenging both colonial and patriarchal realms of epistemic authority. So my study is central to Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak's critical intervention in her essay Can the Subaltern Speak, problematizing the possibility of representation of subaltern voices within hegemonic frameworks, showing us how colonial and patriarchal discourse tends to speak for subaltern women, such as the records of sati silencing and also silencing their agency and autonomy through epistemic violence, how it ostensibly liberates interventions which can result in double displacement, or as Spivak likes to call it, double marginalization. One because of belonging to the indigenous community and one because of being another gender which is not masculine. So this group of subverting studies mainly reconceptualizes marginalized and oral history as alternative histories and political counter archives. I have also used the theoretical framework of Sharmila Rege's Writing Caste, Writing Gender, narrating Dalit women's testimonies to talk about the linked nexus of caste and gender, situating and underscoring the stories that are told by Dalit women as an embodied protest against Brahminical hierarchies. These standpoints on Dalit feminism validates testimonial and oral modes of knowing and learning about crucial epistemological interventions. Vanadana Shiva's work, Staying Alive, Women, Ecology and Development, also illustrates how subsistence economies, often led by women, embody ecological knowledge against patriarchal and capitalist framework and depose resistance insight, and this insight is crucial for shaping our analysis of folk songs, goddess myths, and rituals to enact a narrative of body, land, and unity of voices. And we're also going to study the rituals around local deities like Mariamman or Bono Bibi or Shitala, who are not just passive religious emblems but active autonomous agents in their own eco-spiritual feminist resistance to resist the epistemic eraser of women's voices and amplifying a subaltern women's agency. Right. So the statement of my problem is there, although has been significant scholarship over Indian and culture, and there is a critical epistemic gap at the intersection of gender, caste, and eco-spirituality. More predominantly, though, in oral literature, where scholars are experts for traditions, Dalit voices, feminist critics, eco-feminist movements, that rarely give strength to center subaltern women as producers of knowledge and are rarely intersected. I'm saying this because obviously there are theorists who go and give us a secondary narratives, and often their primary narratives don't see the limelight because of how they're represented. And only the sample size may be really large, but we don't really know how much is represented because these people have been denied voices for millennia now. So even these rituals, oral narratives, they provide sites of dissent. They're encoded through performance rather than textual evidence, yet they're marginalized. The testimonies are marginalized as non-intellectual in their registered scholarship. So oral narratives that form embodied feminist knowledge will emphasize on the testimonies of Dalit women, for which I will be using Sharmila Rege's framework, challenging caste and patriarchy. However, most feminist and Dalit scholarship privileges testimonies which are written more than ritual or vernacular dissemination. Eco-feminist theories such as Vanadana Shiva also validate and affirm the link between ecological stewardship and women in their own works, which they vehemently note that a woman's spiritual knowledge of subsistence and land is often excluded from traditional academic discourse. Still, eco-spiritual literature and oral literature is embedded in land, body, and voice unity in a lot of folklore narratives that is yet to be fully examined. So when academic paradigms still continue to dismiss embodied and oral performances as folklore rather than epistemic or political narratives, voices of subordinate women, especially those mediated through oral and ritual practice, often are not considered in eco-feminist scholarship. As a consequence, scholarly discourse often overlooks survival strategies and critical resistance that have been embedded in every rural life, everyday rural life, through ritual and myth making. How much time do I have left?
You still have about 7 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
6-7 minutes. Yes, you can take time.
Great. So my research asks some really profound questions that really made me think, which I'm going to put forth right now. Since this hypothesis is informed by the framework of feminist epistemology and subaltern studies, as well as ecofeminist thoughts, this study departs from posing a conventional hypothesis and instead will pose a set of critical research questions in order to explore how gender, caste, and eco-spirituality intersect between all folk traditions within India, particularly through the silent voices of ritualistic expressions of subaltern women. The questions are going to center intersectionality as a critical lens to investigate how production and circulation of knowledge are affected by social hierarchy, to connect goddess psychology to ecofeminist theory, to explore the ecological and political embodiment. And these questions posed will frame ritual not just as a passive tradition, but as an embodied epistemological act that subverts dominant structures. Exploring ecological kinship, gender resistance, land-based epistemology, all encoded in folklore. And these reflexive questions engage the ethics of knowledge and scholarship recovery. And these questions are: how do folkloristic oral traditions function as counter-narratives and counter-archives of subaltern women who have been systematically excluded from historical, literary, and feminist discourse? The ways in which gender and caste intersect in order to shape the transmission, performance, and reception of oral narratives among Dalit, Adivasi, and other marginalized communities. How are local goddesses, folk deities such as Mariamma and Bono Baby Shitala constructed as eco-spiritual figurines of resistance in oral regional cultures, and what feminist implications have been encoded in their narratives? To what extent do ritual practices like storytelling, singing, possession, oral performance constitute acts of embodiment similar to agency, while deep colonial reclamation happens within the communities of subaltern women? How can ecofeminist frameworks, when they're applied to folk literature, can illuminate the intimate links between body language and voice in the oral traditions within marginalized women? What are the possible risks and challenges in integrating oral traditions within academic institutions all over the world? And does such translation and interpretation risk double silencing through excessive theoretical reinterpretation, or can it be a justice of, or can it be an act of recovery and justice? In my literature review, basically, I've included all the theoretical frameworks. I've also included Alf Hilterbetel's study on Mahabharata and Ramayana, and also the Can the Subaltern Speak? I don't have a slide for the literature review, but I'll just mention the secondary texts that I've used mostly, and the research that has already been done in this field. In Staying Alive by Vanadana Shiva, Chandra Mohanty's work under westernized feminist scholarship and colonial discourses, and A.K. Ramanujan's translations of folk tales from India. And these basically form the theoretical frameworks in my study. And now we come to the research objectives, which examine how the oral traditions of subaltern women, myths, songs, ritual practices serve the function of being epistemic repositories of gender, caste, and ecological resistance, to explore the ways in which marginalized women use ritual and oral forms to transmit cultural memory, ecological wisdom, and political dissent through field work based on textual studies. This study is going to aim to recognize these performances not just as folklore, but situated epistemology, which is knowledge systems. By repositioning oral cultures as theory, this project challenges Brahminical and colonial epistemologies that have already historically dismissed such practices, and analyzes the interactions of ecofeminist and Dalit theories in interpreting folk narratives and goddess worship. And we are going to also bring together diverse frameworks of Gopal Guru and bell hooks into discourses and conversations surrounding vernacular traditions, interrogating how issues of purity, fertility, land, and embodiment are encoded in female-centric stories and deities. and for critical assessment of roles of deities and goddesses and figures in Dalit and Adivasi and rural discourses, and how they serve as spiritual and political agents of resistance. This objective explores how folk goddesses such as Bono Bibi are mediators of ecological justice, gendered power, and community memory, studying how their worship subverts hierarchical patriarchal norms and how women's embodiment and deities in ritualistic practice becomes an assertion of their agency and autonomy, and to decode and document performative traditions, songs, position rituals, seasonal festivals as a mode of expression of caste-conscious ecofeminism, involving collecting oral performance data from women across regions and analyzing them as records of resistance. The goal is to understand how performance, through conducting interviews, transcriptions, and contextual readings, develop a methodology of reading rituals as political critique. And we are going to articulate an interdisciplinary methodology bridging subaltern studies, performance studies, feminist theory, and ecological criticism. And the aim here is to show how academic approaches must evolve and start including and engaging with non-textual, community-rooted, caste and gender-aware knowledge
Sorry,
systems.
Rita and Vita, can you please wrap up in a couple of minutes?
Sure. So basically, this is basically the significance of my study, which I was going to talk about in more details, and the expected outcomes will be to generate a paradigm shifting intervention in the way of how Indian folk traditions, especially rooted in the voice of rituals of subaltern women, are approached within feminist literary and cultural studies. Rather than treating oral narratives as non-literary data or pre-modern remnants, the study will rephrase them as critical feminist epistemologies, enabling a theorization of what counts as authorship, resistance, and intellectual production. One of the predominant outcomes will be archiving and analysis of endangered social and oral practices of consent-based ethical ethnographic fieldwork, documenting songs, goddess worship, and feasible performances in selected rural, Dalit, and Adivasi communities. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much for wrapping up
Thank
in
you.
time, Rita and Vita. Sorry, if we have more time left, I can give you a couple more minutes after the rest of the presentations are done. If you would like to take
Phila,
more time, yes.
you're not audible.
I'm not audible.
No, you
I
were.
can hear you.
Okay.
Phila,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Phila, you're not audible.
1 second. Hello.
Sir,
1
Jolly
second.
sir, there may be some problem. I mean, technical problem from your end, sir. We can hear Phila clearly.
Who's the next one? Phila is not audible.
Am I audible now, sir?
Phila may be talking to the next one.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Sorry, Ritan Vita. Yes, you may take a couple of more minutes later on if we have time. I'll give you a couple more minutes if you would like to talk more on your paper. Now, we shall I now give the time to Aswati CM, Assistant Professor from YIMS University of Calicut.
A very good afternoon. I hope my screen is.
Yes.
Very good afternoon.
Visible.
I hope I'm audible and my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So, a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Ashwati, and this is my paper. I will be presenting on the title Shapeshifters and Vanishing Shadows, Study on Eco-Catastrophe through the Odeon Folklore. So, to begin with, as an introduction to the paper, Odeon tale or the Odeon folklore belongs to the Palakkad. Not belongs to, but yeah, this is the place where it originates. Odeon can be a person. I'm really sorry about the background sound. Odeon, I would like a minute. First of all, really sorry for the inconvenience, but also thank you so much. So I would like to, shall I continue I hope I'm still audible?
Yes, you are. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you so much for waiting. Yeah, so to begin with, Odeon tales or the Odeon folklore has originated from Palakkad, the place where I belong to. So in today's condition, Odeon tales or the Odeon folklore has just shrunk to mere tales and stories that probably mothers tell their children if they are not going to sleep. And also, it's very important to know and understand from the beginning that Odeon was never about fear. It was more about practices, about a community, about an individual itself. Odeon is beyond just a mere practice or a ritual that was happening. As today we understand, the narrative has completely changed. So, as I begin, these are the things that I would like to point out throughout the study. So, how my study also makes a point of how folklore in cultural memory, as a cultural memory, it performs. Also, most importantly, I would like to bring in the word eco-catastrophe, how the culture or folk, the loss of folklore or a shift in the narrative of the folklore leads to a very major cultural eco-catastrophe. And to begin with, predominantly found in Malabar region, Odeon, as I said, Malabar region is the present-day Palakkad and the districts around it. Malabar region of Kerala, Odeon lore encompasses a rich tapestry of shape-shifting, night-traveling, sorcery, and animalistic rituals, often associated with agrarian society of pre-modern Kerala. It's very important to understand that how Palakkad has always been a majorly agriculture-based place. So, finding a so that's how it's very easily linked how we place the figure of Odeon in the landscape of Palakkad, where it's all about agriculture. Odeon was always part of uh, Odeon, the person or the community. They were in the beginning, they were considered as the gatekeepers, or they were the people who, as night guards, as security guards to the harvest that was there in the rural area, and they were the ones who secured the area, and they were all about just how to protect the harvest that was to be taken the next morning, or most importantly, to safeguard the harvest from the animals that were around it. But slowly, this concept of Odeon changed, and it shifted to a place where they were then becoming mercenaries for the landlords who were ready to pay. And this happened, and most importantly, this started happening while the so-called modernization that we see today started happening. There was how electricity started coming in. There were suddenly lamps and posts everywhere, electric posts and night lamps everywhere, and the concept of Odeon, or the practice that they did, started dwindling. They lost the advantage of having darkness around them, and the narrative of Odeon concept completely shifted to a very bad, or something which is always concerned or always connected with not good in character, or not suddenly they started being the villain, or they started being demonized for the things that they were doing once, which were considered as protectors. They started shifting to demons. And I have mentioned here, Odi Vidya is what is widely known as their rituals and their practices, which is also associated to black magic. So My paper here does not touch on the concept of black magic or occult here. My paper completely talks or would like to discuss on the topic of how narratives starts shifting and you have an cultural eco catastrophe happening all around. So that is all about, I hope you understand the figure of ODNs or how they have been perceived through the ages. And now when coming to the process of this study, it majorly looks at the cultural symptom of eco-catastrophe. As I mentioned earlier, the shift in the collective memory or the collective narrative in the culture, and that shift, how that has majorly affected in the narrative of the folklore itself. And I think that is the most important part that I like to discuss here. And now to my research problem is how the disappearance of a folklore can lead to a cultural eco catastrophe. How the and also most importantly, the existing studies on the narrative of Odeon is mainly focused on mysticism and not as a part of ecological ethics, and how I would like to see Odeon or the folklore superimposed on the ecological understanding, because it's very easy to understand that how an ecological or how a folklore is always embedded with the ecological knowledge of a place or the landscape of the place itself, and especially when we concern ourselves with a concept or a folklore like Odeon, it has a lot to do with the landscape of the place, very importantly, because seeing Palakkad as an agrarian place, it all sums up. So the research questions that I have been positing are, can Odeon lore be seen as an eco-ethical repository of the memory or the narrative that is present in the modern day? And also how Odeon narratives reflect ecological knowledge and also the anxieties, because I earlier mentioned how the image of the Odeon suddenly had a major shift from being very guards of the harvest to suddenly they became mercenaries, and then they started doing it. Their activities never changed. It was from the beginning itself, but suddenly due to modernization or the bringing of today what we see, the pre-modern Kerala lifestyle, and the image of a folklore completely changes into something which is not understood or which is not accepted by people today. Here is my hypothesis, how our Odeon folklore encodes ecological ethics and indigenous understanding of human nature, entanglements through metaphor, ritual, and oral transmission. Also, the Odeon embodies a subaltern ecological imagination rooted in harmony with nature, which stands in stark contrast to the post-industrial eco-catastrophe. So here I would like to bring in the example of the current day catastrophes that are actually happening, which is completely due to human-based and which is due to human activities, where such relationships are severed. So it's also about severing of ecological knowledge that a folklore can give us. So here's a literature review. So most of here, the works that I have taken out are also, they talk about the mysticism concept. And also some of the works are there which have a bit of connection of folklore and ecology, not to mention how deep-rooted connections to local ecology and indigenous cosmologies. This is what the literature review, most of the literature reviews tend to highlight. And also, very importantly, I would like to state my research objectives. Understand the landscape of the Odeon identity, and also analyze the animistic and ecological elements in Odeon folklore. That is how I formed my methodology, and also, most importantly, the theoretical frameworks. This is the methodology. Comparative study with other shapeshifter myths can be done, and also analysis of a film, which I have also taken, which would come in the later slides. And most importantly, ethnographic references from Kerala. Folklore, obviously, oral and retellings and performance. Here is a theoretical framework. Mostly, I have looked at the animistic and deep ecology. These are the possibilities that this work can be looked at. But also, most importantly, I've looked at how animism and deep ecology works in the area of study. See, yeah. Animism and deep ecology. Odian's belief system reflects on a non-dualistic view of life, where trees, animals, and spirits coexist, antithetical and extractive development. Here I have a slide on how ecology plays a huge role in folklore, and especially how Odeon has been conceived throughout the ages, especially lived cultural presence to a fading myth, emblematic of the disappearing ecology and epistemic landscapes of Kerala. We lose more than stories, we lose ecological ethics, and that is how I posit my argument. Here I have another slide on how animism is being animism, the concept of animism can be employed in these things, because today, in today's world, we have Tai Chi, we have animal flow, we have premial motives, movements. All these kind of exercises are bodily, all these type of are physical exercises, which have been, through the ages and practice and observations, people have come about with it. And someday, I hope, this concept of Odeon, the animalistic movements of the body, that is what Odeon does. How they compete, how they, how the Odeon practice is done is through all of this. And someday I hope this becomes a performative art, and how the Odeon is looked at as a performative art and not just folklore, not just folklore which has been forgotten. The concept of Odeon is beyond that, reclaiming the suppressed indigenous ecological knowledge, and also archiving of ecological knowledge, South Indian ecological knowledge, especially looking at the South Indian epistemologies. And this is my conclusion, that disappearance of folklore leading to eco-catastrophe, which is an inevitable situation that we face in the modern days. A huge shift in the cultural and collective memory contends to understand Odeon folklore beyond mysticism. Research reclaims indigenous storytelling for sustainable future, calls for renewed engagement with folklore in environmental discourses, and also, most importantly, restoring this animistic worldviews. And again, I would like to repeat how the future scope of this particular folklore can also be seen or studied as a performative folklore. A film which came in about legendary actors in Malayalam industry. He has been acting as the individual Odeon who practices the Odeon practice, and he can be. You can see the poster itself. Behind him, there is the bull sheep, and they are known to take up all the kind of animals through their practices. So I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ashwati, CM. We now have Nandeshwari Hemam, research scholar from the Department of English and Culture Studies, Manipur University. Yes, I give the time to Nandeshwari Hemam, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, then I'll start sharing my screen. Hello to the respected, esteemed chair and everyone present here. I'm Nandeshwari Hemam, research scholar working under the supervision of Professor Rajkumari Asalata Devi, Department of English and Cultural Studies, Manipur University. The title of my paper is Nongkhamba, the Ren Ritual of Moirang, Manipur, a Functional Study. I'll start sharing by giving a brief description about Moirang. Moirang is the storehouse of the rich cultural heritage of traditional Meitei society and folklore. It has its own palace called Moirang Kangla, its own genealogy of kings called Moirang Ningthoro Lambuba, folk song called Moirang Sai, traditional scarf or shawl called Moirang Fi with the unique border pattern Moirang Fizin, which is used in traditional dresses like Inafi and Fanek of the Meiteis. The world-famous Kamba Thoibi dance is also originated from Moirang. It is Manipur's iconic folk dance portraying the legendary love story of Kamba and Thoibi. Loktak Lake, the largest freshwater lake in northeast India with unique floating fundis, is also located in Moirang. Kaibulamjau National Park, the world's only floating national park, home to the rare and endangered sangai, is also located here. The temple complex of Ibudao Thangjing, the ancient and revered temple, is also located in Moirang. The INA Museum and War Memorial Complex, the first place on the Indian soil where the Indian National Army hoisted the tricolor flag on April 14, 1944. Ren rituals. The Ren rituals are cultural and spiritual ceremonies performed by various communities around the world to invoke or halt Ren, especially during times of flood, drought, or in preparation for planting season. These rituals are based on the belief that humans can influence nature, spirits, or ancestors who control rainfall. The purpose is to seek the favor or intervention of deities, spirits, or natural forces to bring rain or halt rain for agriculture sustenance and overall well-being. They use symbolic gestures, communal prayers, etc. They also make offerings and sacrifices to the deities while performing the rain rituals. The rain rituals are often led by priests, shamans, or community leaders. Nongkhamba, the Ren ritual. The unique as old Ren ritual of Moirang, Manipur, known as Nongkhamba, which means halting of Ren, is performed by the Konjengbam family of Moirang Marembam Laikai. The ritual is performed by the Ren stopper by invoking the deity, praying and chanting the mantra to stop Ren. Transmitted through many generations, this ritual is documented in the old Meitei script and still preserved by the Konjengbam family. The Ren ritual of Moirang aims to stop Ren during socio-cultural events like festivals, weddings, burials, fish, ceremonies, and other agricultural activities. There are also other general Ren rituals. The first one is worshipping the Lord Sanamahi, the household deity, with fresh fruits and burning a lamp throughout the day and night prior to the performance of the function. If he is pleased, Ren will stop. The second one is to catch a frog and keep it covered with a basket in the southwestern corner of the house for some days. It is believed that if the frog is in confinement, there will be no rain since croaking of the frog is associated with rain. The custom of placing yendai upwards on a pandal is also seen. The stealing of lime pot and hiding it is also seen. Stealing of soul container from one's kitchen and hiding it is also believed to stop rain. This is the manuscript preserved by the Nongkhambam family. These are some of the mantras that they use to halt the rain. So Ren rituals, according to J. Shakespeare's article, Ren stopping in Manipur. In the article, the procedure followed and the mantras cited by Sri Narayan Singh, the forefathers of the Nongkhambam family, are summarized as follows. There are three types of ritual. The first one is the rain stopper first appeals to Sanamahi, a procedure. A piece of white cloth, 1 lump in length, is folded up and placed on a stone to form a seat for the lie. In front of it are placed 2 circular pieces of plantain leaf, on one of which is some betel nut and pan leaf, and on the other pieces of some fruits, and besides this is placed a small lamp. The rain stopper standing in front and facing the offerings addresses the lie. The rain stopper claims that if the rain stops with his charm, he can prevent it from raining again as long as the lamp remains burning and the articles remains untouched, and he keeps on saying the charms at intervals. If Sanamahi proved unwilling or unable to stop the rain stopper had to take recourse to worship of Sorarel, the god of the sky. It involves an elaborate arrangement as described here. An ardent pot is held half filled with sand, and this is placed over the fire, used for warmth and not for cooking. The hearth having been first freshly plastered over and the fire lit afresh. Above the hearth, a light platform is constructed on which reposes the book containing the ritual of wren stopping. The wren stopper stirs the sand with the rice spoon on which the words Onkaro, Onkaro have been inscribed, and while he does so, he mutters the following charm. If both the preceding performance have no result, the last resort is Nonkamba. The words Onkaro, Onkaro are written on a billet of wood, and the rainstopper goes out into an open place and twirls it round his head till he notices a break in the clouds. He then observes in what direction the clouds have seemed to be moving and webs them in that direction with his stick, at the same time ordering them off. A wind then rises and blows them away. Sometimes the rain is obstinate, and the rain stopper had been kept at work for 3 days before the rain stopped. While twirling his staff, the rain stopper shouts the following mantra. While meeting the oldest living descendants of the Nonkamba family, they told me that the second and third ritual is performed. They have witnessed performing the second and third rituals by their forefathers, but it has ceased to stop practicing. When I asked them about why the reason of the stopping of practicing these rituals, they said that it may be because of the construction of many community halls and also people losing their faith in these rituals, considering it as some supernatural things, and it's superstitious, and also with the advancement of technology. Moving on, Durkheim argued that religion and its rituals are fundamentally social phenomena. Rituals, in his view, are not just personal spiritual acts, but serve to reinforce the collective conscience and social solidarity of a group. They help bind individuals together and maintain harmony, especially during times of crisis or change. Durkheim categorized the religious rites into 4 types: sacrificial, imitative, commemorative, and paicular rites. Paicular rituals are performed in response to situation of misfortune, disaster, or social crisis, such as death, mourning, or communal anxiety. Unlike celebratory or affirmative rites, paicular rites are marked by sadness, uncertainty, and the need for expiation or rebalancing the social order. Now we are going to discuss Nonkamba as a paicular ritual. The elaborate procedures described for stopping the rain in Moirang appeals to various gods, ritual offerings, and magical accents that fit well into Durkheim's framework of paicular rituals. The context of misfortune, these rites are performed in response to unwanted rain, a classical context of crisis. As in communal involvement, while the rainstopper performs the rituals, the benefit and concern are communal. As a symbolic act of restoration, the sequence appeals to Sanamahi, then Sorarel, then finally Nonkamba are attempts to symbolically heal the community's relationship with nature and to restore order by ritually negotiating with supernatural forces. As for hybridization of traditions, the invocation of both Hindu and local Manipuri deities is, as Durkheim might argue, an example of ritual adapting to changing collective beliefs but maintaining its prime function of social unity and crisis management. As for emotional regulation, these rituals channel communal anxiety or distress into meaningful collective actions, thus preventing social fragmentation during the crisis. Theoretical framework. I'm going to use functional studies for this paper. Functional theory is the oldest and dominant theoretical perspective in sociology and other social sciences developed in 19th century in Europe. Being drawn from the biological theories and functioning of human bodies, this theory is built upon 2 ideas. Functionalism adopts the organic analogy and analyzes a society from a scientific perspective. According to Durkheim, there are 3 main schools of functionalism. The first is biocultural functionalism, the second is structural functionalism, and the third is evolutionary functionalism. So here I'm going to analyze the Ren ritual from Durkheim's structural functionalism perspective. The first one is society as a system of society as a system. Durkheim views society as a complex system whose parts work together to maintain stability and social order. In the case of Moirang, the Renstopper and his ritual practices represents a vital social institution or structure. This institution functions to address the key social and economic need, that is the control over rain, crucial for agriculture and harvest. The rituals invoke both local deities and Hindu gods, showing how different belief systems function together in this community to serve collective needs. The second is social functions of rituals. From Durkheim's perspectives, rituals and shared beliefs are fundamental to generating social solidarity, the collective consciousness that binds members of society. The rituals of rain stopping is not merely supernatural, it reinforces common values and shared beliefs about the power of ancestral lineage and divine forces. The invocation of Sanamahi and other gods, along with the use of specific charms, lamps, and other objects, creates a collective experience that reaffirms the village's sense of order and control over natural forces. This shared belief system helps integrate individuals within the village, giving them a sense of belonging and purpose. The third one, social norms and regulations. The Renstopper's hereditary status and his exemption from compulsory labor historically function as a social regulation mechanism, recognizing and preserving his unique role for the community's benefit. The fourth one is religion as a source of social cohesion. Durkheim emphasized that religion is critical for creating and maintaining social solidarity by symbolizing society itself and binding people that through common rituals and beliefs. The Renstopper's rituals include appeals to both indigenous gods and Hindu deities, highlighting the fusion of religious elements that collectively create a cohesive belief system. The performance of ritual to stop rain can be seen as a symbolic act of community control over the environment, reinforcing trust in the social order and shared moral value. The social stability in an anomy. Disruption in social roles and norm can cause instability and anomy. Adaptation and change. The syncretism between Hinduism and indigenous Manipuri religion mirrors a society adapting to external influences while attempting to preserve internal cohesion. According to structural functionalism, this blending exemplifies how societies adapt to maintain stability and function in face of cultural change. Coming to the conclusion, the Renstopper ritual practices and associated beliefs in Morang serve critical functions, like maintaining social order by reinforcing shared beliefs and social roles, address existential needs like controlling rain critical for farming, which supports the community's economic base, strengthen social solidarity by uniting people through collective rituals and invoking shared deities, demonstrate religion's role as a social institution that both constrains and guides individuals, embedding them in a broader social system beyond themselves. Thus, the Renstopper phenomenon is a perfect example of how cultural beliefs, rituals, and social roles operate as integrated parts of a society to maintain stability, order, and continuity according to Durkheim's structural functionalism. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you,
This-
Nandeshwari Hemant.
Thank you, ma'am. Since this is a working
Yes,
paper, any comments and suggestions are welcome.
Okay, sure. Yes, I hope the audience have a few comments or suggestions if they would like to share some. Meanwhile, we will proceed to the last presentation for today.
Okay,
It
ma'am.
is from Sonu Shah, Institute of Language Studies and Research, in collaboration with Jagadeesh University, Kolkata. So, Sonu Shah, you may please take your time.
Yes.
Sonu Shah,
Yes. Am I
yes.
audible?
Am I audible?
You may begin your presentation. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yes, you are audible.
Just a minute. I'm sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Is my screen still visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The topic of my presentation is From Fields to Festival, Gender Voices and Subaltern Memory in Bhojpuri Orchard. This paper examines Bhojpuri folk genre to understand how women employ oral tradition as spaces of memory, resistance, and creativity, drawing on ethnographic interactions, textual analysis, and performance context. The study argues that Bhojpuri women's origin not only documents subaltern experiences, but also reimagines them through songs. Folklore, in its oral form, has long been a career of cultural memory and a voice for those excluded from mainstream narratives. In the Bhojpuri-speaking region of eastern Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and part of Jharkhand, oral tradition remain deeply woven into everyday life. The Bhojpuri people, historically shaped by agrarian economy, caste hierarchy, and large-scale migration, have cultivated an orature that speak of both survival and resilience. Women's voices are particularly significant in this landscape. They express everyday struggles, ritual duties, emotional burdens, and philosophical reflection in ways that really find a place in written text. Scholars of folklore such as Jan Vecina in 1985 and Ruth Finnegan in 1970 have emphasized orality as an archive of collective knowledge. Oral traditions are not static, residue of the past. They are dynamic, adaptive, and deeply entangled with lived realities. The feminist turn in folklore studies by Radner and Lancer in 1993 and Narayan in 1997 has further highlighted how women's expressive tradition often encode resistance in subtle ways. In South Asia, Gayatri Chakraborty's Piva questions, I quote, "Can the subaltern speak?" unquote, resonates with the study of women's song. While women may be marginalized within caste and patriarchal orders, their voice surface powerfully in ritual and communal performances. Bhojpuri orature illustrate how the subaltern not only speak but sings, creating cultural memory that negotiates both oppression and hope. The Bhojpuri speaker constitute one of the largest diasporic linguistic group with communities spread from Mauritius and Trinidad to Suriname and Fiji, owing to indentured migration during colonial times. Migration continue even today, shaping folk songs that speak of separation, longing, and remittance economies. In this milieu, oral genre function as both emotional outlet and cultural education. Women sing in kitchen, fields, courtyard, temples, and during festivals, keeping alive an archive of emotional labor. Bhojpuri literature thus become not merely entertainment but a pedagogical space where gender, caste, and migration histories are continually reinterpreted. Moving to the song genres. The first type of song is Sohar, which is birth song, are performed during childbirth ritual, celebrating fertility, continuity of lineage, and blessing of deities. Women sing of hopes for male hires, yet they also articulate anxiety about maternal health, economic pressures, and gender expectation. A sohar may be joyfully welcome a son, but simultaneously encode lament about the burden of dowry for daughters, exposing contradiction within patriarchal society. One of the song is Jug Jug Jia Su Babunia Bhavanwa ke Bhag Jagal Ho. Jug Jug Jia Su Babunia Bhavanwa ke Bhag Jagal Ho. O Babni Pyari Hui Hai Kulwa ke Jyoti Manwa Mein Aas Lagal Ho. Actually, this is not the original version. Original version of song is Jug Jug Jia Su Lalanwa. Lalanwa means the baby boy. This song is sung during the birth of baby boy, but this song again created by the women against this trend of singing song during only birth of baby boy, and they have created song like Juk Juk Jia Su Babunia, that is Babunia mean female child. This song is roughly translated as long live, O girl, your birth has kindled the place fate. O girl, you will grow up to be lovely and take forward the family legacy, igniting hope in our hearts. This day is enchanting and the night entrancing. O our sister has given birth to a lovely daughter. Long live, O girl. Mother-in-law is jumping in joy, splashing all over wealth on her granddaughter celebration, have reached the doorstep, and the entire household are filled with the echoes of soar. Even her brother is dancing and singing in joy, embracing her in his arm, while she giggles softly and look on curiously. Long live, O girl, you have lighted the world with your birth. This is a song from Hurmujpur village, Gazipur district. Next type of song is a Jatsar song, which is a wedding song as well as a song sing in a domestic environment. In Jatsar, women navigate the tension between natal and marital homes. This song often satirizes husband, mother-in-law, and ritual customs. Through humor, irony, and double meaning, women comment on domestic hierarchies, asserting agency within constrained roles. The wedding space, through structure by patriarchal ritual, become a stage for women collective laughter, critique, and bonding. One of such songs is Sasura Mor Ba Bajar Ke Pandit, Pad Na Jane Akcharwa Ek, Sasuma Mor Bahut Gyani, Ghar Mein Bhaje Belan Ke The, which is roughly translated as, my father-in-law claimed to be a scholar, yet he cannot read a single letter. My mother-in-law acts so wise, but rules the house with a rolling pin. Through humor, women critique authority within the domestic hierarchy. The performance of such songs during marriage rituals turn otherwise solemn patriarchal spaces into moments of women laughter and collective assertion. Next is the song of separation, which is called Birha, perhaps the most emotionally charged genre. Birha reflects the Bhojpuri migration experience. Wife left behind sing of loneliness, economic struggle, and longing for absent husband. Yet, Birha is not merely lament. It critiques the system that forces men into distance labor, leaving women to bear both agriculture and domestic burdens. Women thus transform personal grief into social commentary, turning song into resistance. One of such song is Sasura Gaile Kolkata Kamaye, Chhod Gailan Nahi Babua Ke Maya, Roti Ta Banai Mai Akele, Asu Piye Raat Bhar Soi, which is roughly translated as, my husband has gone to Calcutta for work, leaving behind the love of his little son. I cook the bread alone and swallow my tears at night. The words show personal grief, but also encode systematic critique, the compulsion of migration that fracture family and burdens women with double labor. One of such more song is Jo Mor Saiya Tu Jaiba Bideswa Tu Bideswa Jaiba Na Hamar Bhaiya ke Bulao Ham Nahi Harwa Jaibo Na Jo Mor Dhaniya Tu Jaibo Nahi Harwa Jahu Na Jatna Lagal Ba Rupaiya Utna De ke Jaihu Na, which is roughly translated as, "Oh dear wife, if you want to go home, return the money that I have spent on you." Then wife reply, "Oh my husband, if you want your money back, make me a virgin as I was at my father's home." This is a very bold song or a bold statement which a woman is making through his song. These women are like totally illiterate women, but such statement is very bold in their own space. These women outwit their male counterpart and challenge mere stereotypical outlook through their witty dialogues. The wife wants to go to her natal home, but the husband demands the money he spent on her, compel her to bring up the issue of virginity. To prove her point, she said, "If you ask for money, you will be able to return my virginity or make me as I was at my father's house," thus displaying the intellectual and courageous nature of the same woman. Next type of song is a monsoon song. That is a Kajri song. Song like Kajri, that is monsoon song, and one of his Chaiti, which is spring song, are deeply tied to the agrarian calendar. Women use nature's metaphor, rains, blowing fields, changing skies, to express desire, despair, and renewal. Here, the female voice resonates with cycle of fertility, agriculture, hope, and intimate emotions, merging ecological rhythms with human longing. One of such song is "Karejwa ho Rama, Barsa Savanwa, Videsiya na aile, Tora bin sukh nahi lagela, Aganwa suna bhaile," which is roughly translated as, "O beloved, the rain of Savan have come, but the migrant has not returned. Without you, joy does not remain, the courtyard field empty." Nature becomes the metaphor of absence, longing, and the hope of reunion. The seasonal cycle mirrors women's emotional cycles. Next type of song is a Nirgun song, which is a philosophical song in which women explore existential and spiritual questions. Unlike ritual-bound Sohar or Jatsar or Nirgur, transcend immediate social roles, engaging with metaphysical ideas of the body, soul, and mortality. Women singers articulate their philosophical agency, challenging the assumption that metaphysical thought belongs only to male scent or literature. Example of such Nirgun song is "Kahe banwa banaila Rama, kahe nadiya bahaila, kahe jivan deke le lela, manus ke khel banaila," which is roughly translated as, "Why did you create the forest, O Lord? Why did you make the rivers flow? Why give life only to take it away, turning human fate into your play?" Here, women step into the role of philosopher, questioning divine justice and the meaning of existence, unsettling the assumption that spiritual thought belongs only to saint or literate men. A woman's song as a living archive, the above verse demonstrate how Bhojpuri women encode memory, critique, and resilience in oral form. Through satire, that is Jatsar song, lament, that is Birha song, metaphor, that is Kajri song, and questioning, that is Nirgun song, they transform everyday struggle into cultural commentary. Orature become a living archive of women lives, negotiating field and festivals, labor and leisure, silence and voice. Improvisation further keep this song alive. A Birha verse may include a reference to rising price or political corruption. A Kajri may insert new metaphor to reflect changing landscape. These modifications demonstrate how women voices respond dynamically to shifting realities. Gender voices and subaltern memory. Through this genre, Bhojpuri women articulate both compliance and defiance. Songs are repository of grief, satire, humor, and spiritual wisdom. They transform silence experience into audible memory. The metaphor of field and festivals capture this duality. Song in field sustain everyday everyday labor, while those performed at festival connect women to collective joy and ritual community. By encoding critique in poetic form, women subvert patriarchal silence. For instance, jokes at the expense of in-laws during Jatsar allow for indirect protest. Lament in Birha reframe migration as both personal suffering and systematic injustice. Even devotional Nirgun song embodies subtle resistance by presenting women as a thinker and philosopher. Bhojpuri folk songs are not static relics. They are performative act of resilience, constantly negotiating the boundaries of gender, caste, and migration. They provide insight into how subaltern women articulate agency in condition of economic precarity and patriarchal dominance. When compared with other South Asian oral tradition, such as Rajasthani women, Ghodia, or Nepali teach song, Bhojpuri genre reveal a similar pattern. Women's song become counter-narrative to dominant patriarchal ideology, offering alternative archives of history. Moving toward the conclusion, Bhojpuri women's orature is dynamic and resilient archive of cultural memory. By singing Sohar, Jatsar, Birha, Kajri, and Nirgun, women negotiate the contradiction of their lives while simultaneously preserving collective memory. This genre blur boundaries between personal and political, private and communal, grief and celebration. Recognizing Bhojpuri orature as knowledge challenges hierarchy of written versus oral culture. It demands a rethinking of folklore not as a mere tradition but as an active side of resistance and creativity. Preserving these songs through documentation, performance, and academic engagement is crucial to safeguarding subaltern perspective in contemporary cultural discourse. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonusha.
Phila, everybody's over or?
Yes, it just got
Hello.
over, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
So yeah. Is there anyone left?
No,
Ma'am,
no,
you are
that's it.
not
We have.
audible, I think.
Okay. All right. So we will have a slide presentation by Girish Gopinath at 4:30. We will start here. That is offline and online. We will try to put it online also. The
Yes.
same link
Yes,
so
4:30.
that some people can watch it.
Mhm.
Okay, that will be
Yes.
better.
Yes. So
Okay.
is there anything that you would like to add? Any suggestions or comments? Any
I
queries?
missed 2 papers. So better you
Okay.
talk.
Yes. Yes, I would like to thank all the presenters. Yes, all right. Because we were running short of time. I'm sorry that Rita Muta could not complete her presentation. I was just thinking that your paper that you have submitted is, it has a vast regional scope that you have covered 3 states. So I can understand how it must be challenging as well. And because you have also used a lot of theories there that you want to, a lot of theoretical framework that you are weaving into your paper as well. So I'm just thinking, did you face any problems while reading the retold narratives, whether there was any loss of authenticity? Because usually when these narratives are retold, yes.
Yes. So basically, this is a research proposal. This has not materialized yet. So, which is why the authenticity in the
Alright,
narratives
okay.
is lost because
Okay,
of
okay.
over
Yes.
theorization and so many studies that have already been done, which is why the literature review. So, I'm using these frameworks to incorporate in my own narratives to
Yeah.
identify the gap, like where the
Alright.
testimonies are getting represented. So, it is an objective which is not fully materialized yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because I was just thinking that you could also add your ethnography because it's a fieldwork. Your data is also fieldwork based, so
Ethnography
you
will be
could
a part
add
of the field work. So I have a timeline of
yeah,
12 months. It's in my paper
or
actually.
yes, okay, okay. So I didn't see that in your presentation in your paper, so I was just thinking that you could
Yeah,
also
because
add
of
the
the paucity
challenges
of
that you
time,
face.
because of paucity of time, I could not include all of that, but it's all in my paper.
All right, okay. All right. For Nandeshwari, you presented on the no hamba.
Yes, the run
Yes,
ritual of
Nandeshwari present. Yes, that was. I found it to be quite interesting as well. I can understand that it's a
Thank
working
you.
paper as well.
Thank you.
Yes. So I was just thinking that you could also include the other practices that we have that's practiced in the northern part of India, the Shraddha.
Yes, since yeah, actually it's a working paper, so I'll try to incorporate all those things in my full paper.
Yeah. Yes, because you mentioned peculiar studies, so I was just that came to my mind, Shraddha, and because you're working on Manipur's tradition, so there's this Tangkhul tribe in Manipur. I also belong to that tribe, and we also have a similar ritual or a rite that is related to mourning and loss. So we have a festival called the Tisham Festival.
Okay.
To commemorate people who have passed away. Yes. So I think you can also look into specific papers that have been written on that
Yeah, yeah,
festival as
sure.
well.
But since yeah,
Yes.
sure. But
It
since my
was
paper is yeah, yeah, please.
can read the papers that too. Yeah. Yes. Um okay, for Miss Ashwati, I was just one last question. I was just wondering whether you interviewed women storytellers during
No, no,
your
no.
field.
No,
Okay, because I
actually,
thought that that could be an
yeah, yeah, sure. But as far as I have my knowledge
yes,
about
I
this
read your
thing,
apps.
this, yeah, yeah. So it's I wouldn't want to say that it's mostly male dominated, but the stories that I have come across do have majorly
Mhm.
male people, as in, like, yeah, the demography is always has it slides to that side when we talk about gender. So it's really hard to say, if because all the stories that I have heard and come across, it's very diluted also, so that also becomes a very huge disadvantage that this study poses. Yes, so yeah.
I think, thank
Yeah,
you, Phila.
yeah,
I
because
think we will wind up the section
that
now.
was an interesting paper too. So
Yeah.
I was thinking whether you interviewed them during in the methodology that you applied. Anyway, thank you so much to all the presenters. It was all very interesting. Jyotis Babu's presentation on food is also quite, quite an interesting take. So I would like to thank everyone who has attended this session, and we look forward to having you during the next talk and slideshow that will be presented by Girish Gopinathan, a photographer, on the theme Picturing Rituals. Yes. So we hope to see you there
Thank you
again.
all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yes.
But for now, and possibly come tomorrow, we will also have online.
Mhm.